Hey Gammon, I'm in my office today. Uh, yeah. So I made some videos earlier today, but my microphone was broken, so I had to take it apart and fix it. But that might have worked out for the best, because now we're going to do like a voiceover, and I can show charts and graphs and stuff, and it should be fun. So let's get into it. Today I wanted to start making kind of like maybe a weekly video or something on the engineering and design process, and how I'm using it at home right now. Um, I really like the engineering and design process when you pair it with our 7 habits. I think those two go together really well. If you're not using the first 3 habits, being proactive, beginning with the end in mind, and putting first things first, you're not going to do well with the whole engineering and design process. And I can say that because I've experienced it. So my garden last year started off really good, but it ended up kind of going into disarray and failure, mainly because I skipped over all 3 of these. I just went in and started creating stuff, and I didn't spend enough time making a plan. So I was not very proactive, and I didn't put first things first, and I did not begin with the end in mind. And that really turned out to be a problem. So, speaking of that, so I'm kind of in the 5 area. So I'm working to improve this year. And so I need to know what problems I need to fix and what are kind of my constraints. So let's start by looking at my garden from last year. Here's a picture of my garden last year. Um, so, like I said, I didn't really spend a lot of time doing any of these steps right here. I just decided, hey, I want to make a garden. I went to the store, I bought some lumber, I built a box, I filled it with soil, and I threw my plants in. So I didn't really see the issues that came to be. The first thing I didn't do right was I overplanted my garden, and I left the area around my garden untouched. So I had a real big problem with weeds. I had a problem with my garden being overgrown, and I had a problem with pests. So those are the 3 things that this year I'm going to try and solve. So I had to do some brainstorming to get into that. So that was my imagine process. So when I like to do the imagine process, I like to have all my materials out and be able to look at everything. So I'll pull up my imagine video here. Now, here is my garden area, and I grabbed all of the materials that I want to try and grow in this year as well. So I have 2 large, well, I got 1 large grow bed, a second box here, and then I have 2 planters that I built, and then a couple various pots and some old tires that I didn't throw out. So I decided to try and use those tires to like grow something in. We'll see. Anyway, now let's see if I can get a different video. So I was talking about the stuff, but my microphone didn't work. So here is where I get into my constraints. So one of the problems I said I had last year was with pests. So I want to keep my garden within this L-shaped fence. So I don't want to pass this fence post here, and I don't want to go any further than this grow bed here, because if I need to, I will be able to fence in my garden, and I'd rather just build 2 walls than have to reinvent the wheel and make a fancy fence or whatever. So if I stay within this fence post here, then I'll be okay. So those are my constraints. So once I kind of did my brainstorming and had my constraints figured out, and I knew the problems that I wanted to solve this year, then I went into my garage and I got my planning stuff out, which, much like you guys at home, my planning stuff is the same planning stuff I give you in the classroom. I had paper, pencil, and a ruler. I did cheat. I had a little notepad here. So the first thing I did was I made a list of all of the materials that I had so I wouldn't forget anything. And then I started to draw my diagram. Now, my big boxes, I know that those are too heavy for me to move, especially since they're full of soil. So I used those. I drew my fence line first, and then I drew my 2 boxes. Once I had my 2 boxes, then I kind of had to think how I wanted to arrange the rest of the garden. So I decided to do my 2 small boxes as rows, and then I had my yellow pots, my clay pot, the tires, and the old pot. So this was the layout that I decided. And then as I was sitting here, I was like, okay, one of the problems I had was the weeds. So the next thing I did was, I figured out, if I use a lot of mulch around my garden, and mulch is just like wood chips, basically. I mean, it's wood chips. I make my own mulch. I use a wood chipper. I use wood chips. So I was like, if I put down wood chips or mulch around everything, if I get it all cleaned up and then do my mulching, that will stop the weeds from being able to grow up around my garden, and I won't have to do as much weeding during the summertime. So I decided, I'll lay down mulch around. So I used a green pin for my mulch, and that was the plan I came up with. So now that I've identified my problems and constraints, I did my imagining and I made my plan, which I do have a better picture of my plan right here. I need a lot of mulch, so I'm definitely going to have to make sure that I'm proactive and spending enough time out in the pasture making my mulch, so that my garden doesn't get overgrown. So I'm going to have to put first things first and begin with the end in mind, and maybe miss out on doing some of the fun stuff I want to be doing and be working out in the garden instead, so that I can have a successful garden. So now that I made my plan, I need to go into my create stage. So that's what I did here. I had my plan, and I went back out, and I gathered my tools, and I just got to work. So I did kind of rake everything out. I got a big pile of leaves and old grass and stuff. I'll throw that in my compost pit, and that will be, beginning with the end in mind, I'll save that stuff for next year's soil. So I got everything cleaned out. I started laying down mulch. I know that I need to make a lot of mulch, but I followed my plan, and as you can see, everything fit within my constraint. So this fence here I will be able to make that fence to keep the critters out if I need to, and everything is parallel with this main box, so I will be able to fence everything in if I need to. I spread out as much mulch as I could, and hopefully as I make more mulch, I can get it spread out really well and keep this area nice and clean, and so that my plants aren't having to fight with the weeds and stuff. And I can show you, I think at the end of this clip here, I can show you why that's really important. So here is one of my iris beds, and this iris bed hasn't been taken care of very well, so you can see all the grasses growing up. The iris is these little flowers right here, and they just look like really big thick grass blades right now, but they're not doing very well because this is all overgrown with with grass. But this iris bed over here, you can see it looks a lot fuller, a lot more healthy, and that's because, for whatever reason, this one I've done a better job keeping it clean. The grass that grows here is really aggressive, so I really have to work hard to get this area clean. So I might just end up digging up those irises and planting them elsewhere and just starting over. But anyways, so this, whoops, where'd my video go? It's gone. Anyways, that's because I don't want my garden to get overgrown. That's why I really got to make sure that I work on that mulching and stuff. So for the next couple days, I'm still going to be in this create stage before I can move on to anything. So this isn't a project that's going to be done in one day. So I'm really going to have to work on putting first things first and beginning with the end in mind. I got to keep that end goal in my mind. I want those fresh fruits and vegetables. I don't want to have to go to the grocery store to buy that stuff. So that's what I'm gonna do. Now, if you guys want to garden with me, go for it. Awesome. I know we did a lot of gardening in our classroom this year. I showed you guys how you can grow stuff in practically anything. All you need is sunlight. So if you've got a window in your house or if you've got an outside, you got sunlight. You need soil uh, or something to grow in. So if you can pick up some potting soil or just, get your mom and dad's permission to dig a hole outside maybe. Or you could just do traditional farming and just plant your stuff in the ground. So clear it from weeds, whatever. Let me know if you are going to grow anything. Let me know what you're going to grow. I know some of you already have gardens at home. You told me all about your gardens. So if you can post some pictures on your Google Classroom, share those with me, that'd be awesome. I'm still in my planning stage right now for what I'm actually going to grow. So if you have ideas on what kind of plants and stuff I should do, let me know. And even though you're not here gardening with me, you can still have some input on what I put in the garden, and we'll talk about what's there and what it needs to live and everything. So I'm hoping to do a weekly video, just kind of Mr. Suter's garden. So be on the lookout for that, and definitely let me know what I should grow, and I'm gonna get to work. So I will see you guys later. Enjoy your weekend.